What if like we all dropped in on hot air balloons, got off, did the show, and then left?
I know. I feel like that's
On
too
hot
much.
air balloons and just
I
we
think it's
flew
a group.
away.
It's stronger.
Is
I
that
think you have to go at
is
the
that too
same
much?
time. It's sort of a, bringing it back to the
All at the
Beatles.
same
I
time?
think you all have to get in the hot air balloon at the same time in the basket and go up. Like Yellow Submarine. They all arrive in the basket and then they all leave in the basket as one. So I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
more
Mm-hmm.
powerful movement.
Mm-hmm. And we've
Yeah,
got the air supply guys, so
they'll
they
service it.
could they'll service the whole thing. I'm assuming the air supply guys now have a side business, a hot air
Yeah,
balloon side
yeah.
business.
They supply
I'm
air.
assuming.
That's exactly what you need. That's just good business, and musicians helping each other out. I mean, I feel like we cracked the code here today.
I kind of feel like we can't publish this podcast now because there's too many nuggets of
When you say
gold that
nuggets,
people could steal from us.
all right.
Nuggets, gold nuggets that
I think
we
that's your side
produce.
Aerosmith project called Gold Nuggets.
Isn't there a
I
hotel,
don't
the Gold
know.
Nugget
I don't
in
know
Vegas?
anything about hotels really. I just stay in them. I just go where people book them for me and then I leave.
You're listening to a conversation between Harrison Cannon, bassist for many, many bands, and Tamara Federici, producer of every band ever, already in progress. Happy 1-year birthday, podcast. I love ya.
If you're just joining us, Harrison has kissed his double bass.
That was me saying
And
hello in jazz style.
oh my God, I didn't know you could say hello in jazz.
Oh yeah. Oh, you can say all kinds of things in jazz.
Like what? I actually didn't know that.
Jazz is so expressive, you know? It's like, I wanted to take all of our old records and just do them all over again in jazz.
Like Taylor Swift, but jazz?
But yeah, like take the pop sensibility of Taylor Swift, mix it in with the Beatles, and then jazz it up,
That sounds
And then you
great.
talked me out of it.
I know. Well, I didn't think it was right at the time. I think it was also I was working with the Beatles and you guys at the same time, so it was sort of a quandary for me for a little bit. I mean, there's two really different styles,
Travel.
right?
Yeah, because which album were you working with the Beatles? Well,
that particular one was the White Album, but you guys was working on your first album. So,
right.
just for folks who, just in case people don't know, you had 3 albums. I worked on all of them. It was
of course.
Russell Page's. I work with a lot of notes. Don't be offended. I work with a lot of bands, and so dates and times and specific albums and specific row are daunting to me because they kind of all switch around to me. But the first one was
I never get offended because I just enjoy that you show up and I kind of wish you had told me at the time that that you had just come from 1968-69 Beatles session in Abbey Road to join us in Chapel Hill it was actually in Raleigh at Jerry Key's studio for our first.
Wow. Yeah.
You just didn't mention that. I just feel like that was oversight.
I don't know. How would you have felt if I told you at the time? Would that have been a great thing to know or a bad thing to know?
It would have been probably a little unbelievable. I probably would have not believed you. Maybe. I don't know. I guess it depends on how you would have told. Like if you had taken me aside and said, look, I can, 1, travel through time, and 2, I have produced every single record ever made. And I would have been like, get out of here. I would have been like, get the fuck out of here.
I know. I just kind of forgot about it to tell people, I just kind of was. Yeah, I was, like when I'm working with you guys, I'm working with you and with your bands, I'm just focused on you and making a good album with the bands. So it doesn't really come up much because I just kind of compartmentalize. You have to be fully present at each one. So once you kind of hop, you're going to be present at that. So I will tell you the Beatles heard some of the early tracks for Feet in Mud.
I always felt like Paul kind of ripped me off, but I was like, but that's impossible because
oh my God,
he wrote that like 20 years earlier. But I kind of felt like there were some bass lines that I felt like, man, Paul's kind of taking my stuff and
really
putting it on the White Album.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, that's what's so weird about music lawsuits these days is sort of like, it's that exact thing, actually. So
Yeah.
it's just, there's not enough interpretation for the law for what I do with them. So I just sort of like let it be, as they say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I have so
They do
many
say that.
questions since the last time I saw you. I thought we could actually, if you're working on something new, that maybe I could help you, I could help you with wherever you're at with it.
I love your input always because you were the one that talked me out of doing all of Geezer Lake in funk bass style. You talked me out of that, and I was like, "But man, I gotta slap it. I gotta slap this bass." And you were like, "Harrison, I just need to tell you, no."
Thank you for saying that. Like you were in your early 20s, so that was your slapping it phase for sure.
I
For
was
sure.
I was slapping it as much as possible, and yeah, because I was 20, and and you said you came up and you just grabbed the bass and said, stop it right now,
Yeah,
and I
I'm
and
sorry
and
about
that
that.
no, I needed it. I needed that. It hurt at the time, but I really needed to hear that because it changed the trajectory of all the records we made.
Potentially you would have been, like a more pop oriented band that way. I feel like more accessible, but I also think you would have been selling yourselves out for the
Yeah,
band that was, which was like a crunchier,
rock, angular,
right? And it was
punk
elbows.
rock. Yeah,
I think I want to talk about Spent first, actually, because that one's a 7-minute song that reads like a 9-minute song. And I thought that was an interesting request for you guys to have. So when you're hearing it,
yeah.
it's actually slowing down time and it feels longer, which is
Oh, does it mess with the space time continuum?
a little bit in a musical
Okay.
way, but it is kind of an oddball thing to do. It's really against the grain, which feels right for Geezer Lake and also for like the 90s was very much like, an attitude of rebellion to be like, I'm going to, you know what? I know you want this shorter. I know it's fancy to cut things out and edit them and make them really radio ready. We're going to go the other way. We're going to, we're going to play this in a live venue. We're going to stretch it out. You're not going to know how long you've spent listening to this song. You could have been here 5 minutes. You could have been here an hour. What is
Yeah.
time?
And remember, you were the one that said you might want to put a warning on this song if somebody's listening to it in their car because it puts you in this hypnotic state and you might just drive right off a cliff or something, like
Yeah, you came
don't
close to
listen to
that.
this
I mean, like,
that song while driving.
right, these are other college students. This is the diabolicalness of college students making music for other college students. It's sort of like Reason is a whole different monkey in there. And it was at the time where, we didn't know where we were going because we didn't have maps on our phone. We just kind of drove. And wherever we ended up.
Exactly. You didn't have maps or like smartphones or anything to dictate every minute of your life. So yeah, so it was just you just went.
You just were like, what is the music telling me to do? Then it was like, well, I'll keep going straight. Oops. And that was just what needed to, that's how things were. The other thing I just remembered was I can tell you actually the first time that I saw you guys play and sort of like what that was like, because I didn't know you personally then, but it was a live show. It was in Greensboro. And I have this distinct memory of being at the back of this venue, which was very long, like a shoebox, I'm going to say. So I was coming in the back of the shoebox, making my way up the back, and then coming up to the middle kind of, and it was packed, and there were all these sweaty people, and you guys were playing, and then there was just somebody just screaming on stage, and then that turned out to be you, and it was just like screaming and horns. And then somebody next to me was like, that guy is cute. And it was like, that was it. So it was like guys and girls, but it was really, that was the vibe going into that thing was like screaming, horns, sweaty dudes, and then girls being like, that guy is cute. And like, that's such a collegiate experience, but also such a, I think so true to that band. Was that?
I'm assuming they were referring to Eric Shepherd because he was super hot And but I'm thinking that was like the early Miracle House of Rock days, or maybe even earlier. It could have been like Basement Show in Strong Dorm or something. No, it probably was.
I think that was also one of them for the second album. That was Hearts not
Hearts Won't Try This.
Hearts. What is it? Hearts won't drown in this. Oh my god.
Hearts Won't Drown in This. That's what we should
Hearts won't drown in this.
That's what you wanted us to call it. But Chris was like, no, it's got to be Hearts Won't Try This.
Oh, Hearts Won't Drown in This felt kind of like, I'd done The Cure and I was like, that worked for them. That kind of angst was really his bread and butter.
Yeah.
So I was like, Hearts Won't Drown in This.
Yeah, we weren't going to that gothy, right?
You weren't gothy, like, yeah.
Hearts Won't Try This. Like, but thinking back on it now, Hearts Won't Drown in This would have been really good too, but maybe a little too Curie.
Yeah, but Hearts Won't Try This was that when you guys were like, we want a basement in a college house where everything is like, where the only decoration are mannequins in the basement, and you were like, we want that specific sound. And how do we get it?
That's the sound we were trying to find.
And it's one lonely 100%. Skinny guy dancing in the corner and everybody else going nuts. And then just mannequins placed.
Carl.
Yeah.
Yep. And the mannequin was Betty.
Oh, yeah. See?
In fact, remember our first cassette was called Where's Betty? Because somebody stole that mannequin.
Again, I think I think you couldn't have gotten that sound more right on.
Thank you. Well, with your help.
I'm glad that we got there.
It was you brought in that mannequin and said, you remember Betty? And then you threw it on the ground, and then you kept pouring like lighter fluid or gasoline or something flammable. And then you just lit it on fire. And then you said, now get your fucking ass in there and record this album.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, okay. Yep. That put me in the right spot.
Sometimes you have to do different methods for different bands. And, like you have to kind of bypass a fire code. I mean, that's always been my rule. You got to just put that to the side. If the fire code doesn't serve you, make some fire.
But it did feel dangerous too. Yeah.
It was actually very dangerous.
It was insanely dangerous now that I think back on it.
Right. Cause it was right next to some Everclear, which, that is highly flammable. We got lucky.
Yes. Grain alcohol will go up like that.
But it sounds great on a mic? Fire.
Whoa, that was deep. My life makes sense to me now. Harrison Cannon is a New York bassist and musician for Geezer Lake, M Shanghai String Band, and Barnaby. Tamara Federici once mailed Barry Gibb a letter which said inadequate. Gibb cried. Every band ever is, Will Velasquez as editor and producer, Clark Jackson as audio engineer, Will Briley as publicity, Mary Lear as coordinator, Jonah Katz as social media, and artwork by Simon Morris Winheld. Visit our linktree at Every Band Ever on Instagram.